have done I've done a couple ones. I did a Coke bottle, I think, and if I didn't, I'm gonna slap myself later, but I think I did a Coke bottle that was pouring over the nail, and I know I did a crushed grape soda that was pouring over the nail. So this one is going to be Sprite, and so Sprite's clear, so that gives a kind of different look to the soda that's pouring out. I used a clear white glitter, and I think it looks very nice, and then the background of this nail is absolutely gorgeous. It's got a blue to green gradient with these little circular ghost glitters. So because it's matte, the glitters kind of show up and give this iridescent, very carbonated look, kind of over the top without being like right in your face. I just love it. The background is my favorite element of this nail. I hope you guys love it as much as I do, and don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well.
So we're going to begin by creating that gorgeous background by doing a blue to green gradient on the nail with acrylic. So there's the blue color starting out, and you can do multiple layers. You don't have to just do one time of doing blue and then one time of doing green. If it works for you to do thin layers and go blue and then green and then blue and then green, that's fine. You can do that until you're happy. And then with some clear acrylic, you're going to use that to attach your little ghost glitters. So what a ghost glitter is it's a clear glitter base that's iridescent, and they're absolutely amazing, and they're just something that you can kind of put in anywhere, and they just show up when they want to show up, and they're just so cool. So we're going to be placing those in the background, like I said, and then after we have all of them down, you're going to want to encapsulate this nail really well with some clear acrylic. And when I say really well, I mean you need to really press it around those glitters so that there isn't air bubbles. You want to make sure that air bubbles are the last thing that you have to deal with. Then file the nail into shape with your e-file to make sure that this little nail is nice and smooth, and then use a very narrow bit to drill a hole through the middle of the nail. So now we're going to be sculpting our base for our little can around a straw. And so when you're doing this, you're going to want to sculpt in that gradient just like you did on the background of your nail. So if you're somebody that's fairly new to sculpting gradients with acrylic, this might be something that you want to maybe practice up on before attempting this particular design, because it is a very crucial element to be able to get that smooth gradient. And for me, you guys, if you watched my giraffe video from yesterday, you heard me raving about Koopa's 3D sculpting monomer. Does not work for gradients. As you can see, it's just not really working for me. That is due to the monomer that I'm using because it sets up so quickly. It doesn't make gradients very easily. That being said, if you're somebody that usually uses a fast setting monomer and you just cannot figure out how people do a gradient, that is why. Because you can get quick set monomers that aren't necessarily that Koopa one. There's other ones that are quick setting monomers, and maybe just check on your monomer if you have trouble doing gradients, and that may be all your struggle right there. So eventually I ended up switching back to my regular sculpting monomer for doing the rest of this little ombre on my little can, because it quickly dawned on me that that was probably not the best use of monomer for this particular situation. Then after that's completely cured, you can pop it off of your straw and then file it into shape just on the ends. Don't worry about going like around the barrel part of the can or just around the middle, just do the ends. And then on a nail form backing, sculpt the bottom of the can with some silver. So then you're going to press the green side of the can into the silver acrylic, and then also with that silver acrylic, sculpt a little pop top. Then you're also going to need to make the base of the other side of the can on a nail form backing, and after that's cured, pop it off and add some more height to it with blue. So that base was also done with the same blue that I did for the can, and then I'm also sculpting this extra height with that same blue. And when I say extra height, the reason you do this now is you kind of indent it a little bit. So the can is widest in the middle, and then it kind of tapers in a little bit. Flip that over, and as that's curing, on the other side of your can, place down a ring of silver acrylic, or a bead of silver acrylic, and then with a dotting tool, make a little ring in the middle of it. So press the dotting tool in and swirl it around, which will just give you that perfect little ring shape, and then add some more silver acrylic to the edge of it to help create that smooth shape. So the can is straight-sided, and then it tips up and down on the top and the bottom. And then after you have that done, you're going to want to take and gently file the can to help enhance that shape that I was just talking about. So with your hand file, just go kind of around in a circle and gently file it at an angle to give it that exact shape that you're looking for. And look at the can from all different angles to make sure that it looks right from any way and any direction that you view it. And then once you're happy with how everything is turning out, you can file around the middle of it too. But then on the top of the can, you're going to want to sculpt a layer of silver, very thin layer of silver, pat it out nice and flat. And then you're going to want to do another little silver ring. This time I want to do it a little bit more precisely. So instead of doing it the way I did on the bottom, where I placed down the bead and then used a dotting tool to spread it out, I'm just going to take and sculpt a very thin layer all the way around the whole thing. Just continue it kind of around like so, doing little bit by little bit. And the reason to do this, like I said, I want it to be a little bit more precise, and plus because this part is so thin and narrow, it'd be hard to get it with just the dotting tool without the acrylic sort of splitting up and cracking. And then glue your little pull tab in place, and then with your E-file, once again in that narrow bit, drill a hole right in front of the pull tab for where the can would have been opened. And you don't have to go all the way through to the middle of the can, but just enough that your little piece of wire can be glued inside of it, which is the next step. And then after the wire is glued into the can, you can glue it into the hole that is on the nail, and you can kind of, make any sort of angle you want for this. I like to go up and to the side slightly, but if you want to play around with it and to do different angles and different kind of curves of the wire, you certainly can. Secure the wire in place with some clear acrylic both in the can and on the nail, and then apply a layer of matte gel top coat over the nail. And as you can see, that glitter looks absolutely phenomenal with a matte layer on there. And then with some clear white glitter gel, I'm going to be just kind of covering my wire, and the wire is still going to show because this is a clear but glittery mix. And so I'm okay with the wire showing. Normally I try to completely cover up the wire, but in this particular circumstance, it is what it is. And then apply some gel top coat. Thank you, brain. Some gel top coat over any of that gel polish that I just did. So any of that glittery bit, you're going to need to top coat. Otherwise, try to leave the rest of the nail completely matte. And so now with some acrylic paint, we're going to be doing our Sprite logo. I'm going to start with a blue kind of shadow of my logo going across the can. And the blue that I'm using isn't nearly as intently pigmented as some of them that I've used before, and it seems to take longer to dry than most acrylic paint that I have. And you'll kind of see that as I'm working with it, that it is sort of patchy when it dries, but it's okay. It doesn't actually have to be that perfect in the end of it because there's going to be a lot of layers happening on top of this. This is just the first sort of start to our logo. And one creative decision I decided to do with my logo that is different from an actual Sprite can is I changed the direction of the Sprite logo. So normally it goes around the can. If the can was, sitting on the table, it goes around horizontally, whereas I'm painting it vertically. But I want it to be able to be read from the position that the can is in easily, and so I decided to turn it. If you wanted to be a little bit more precise with the way it would look and to be more like the actual can, you're going to want to tip your little logo 90 degrees. With some diluted white paint, I'm going to be adding a splashing effect around the logo. At first, when you apply the diluted white paint, it looks very white, but as it dries down, you'll notice that it becomes a lot more faint and gives you a very easy, realistic splash type look. Now I'm going to be filling in my lettering with white paint. And at this point, as you're doing this, hopefully the blue paint is dry. Mine is still a little bit wet in certain spots, but it's pretty good. And just very carefully do each letter going across, knowing that if you mess up a letter and something goes a little bit wrong, or two letters touch, or just any of those things that can certainly happen when you're painting, you can always go back to your dark blue and fix them. And you can keep going back and forth, white blue as many times as you need until you're happy with the way that your logo's looking. If you get it on your first try, give yourself a pat on the back. If you don't, it's not a big deal. You could just go ahead and add another little layer. And that's the beautiful thing with working with acrylic paint, is that it is so thin when it dries that if you do have to go back and forth a few different times to perfect it, it's not going to show in the end. So I'm going to go over my yellow one more time because it didn't dry very opaque, and then add the green half of my lemon lime little part of the logo. And then we're going to take a silver line, and this is with some silver gel paint that I have that's kind of like a chrome paint. And I'm going to be going around my Sprite logo with it reminds me of a spider web, actually, a little spider web type of shape going around, just sort of tracing the outside line of our Sprite can. And if you don't have this chrome paint as I do, just using a gray would be perfectly fine. And then apply a layer of gel top coat over the can, making sure that the can looks nice and shiny as a can will, and cure that. And this nail is all done. I love this design. I love this pouring can concept, and I'm sure I'll be doing more of them. If anybody has any soda type requests, definitely let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.